Welcome to Engineering Why, a podcast looking at the engineering and technology sectors, profiling businesses, people, and giving you an insight into the opportunities and the exciting things going on within the industry. We're on location today in Daresbury at the SciTech Innovation Centre, and I'm really pleased that we're joined by Michael Thomas of Peak Technology Solutions. We're going to talk about Michael's career, his education. He's got an interesting story, moving from France to the UK, growing a business, and the challenges and successes that he's had with that. Michael, great to have you here. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks very much, Tom.
So I'll let you intro yourself. I've given kind of everyone a brief snapshot, but just talk us through kind of you and Peak and the business.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Michael Thomas. I'm now the Executive Director at Peak Technology Solutions, a business that we started with three colleagues, four of us. Started the business back in 2004. I guess we decided to try to do something ourselves. We were very strong, technically focused engineers, and got the Peak 42 business on the road. Fast forward 15 years down the line, the business employs 60 automation professionals. We deliver our services in the water sector, utilities, pharmaceuticals, chemicals, food and bev, infrastructure, and I'd like to think we've become a major driving force of the UK automation industry.
Good, I think you certainly have. So let's take it all the way back. So I guess set the scene for people. Your accent's confused me for years, but you grew up in France.
Yes.
Before moving and making kind of the northwest home, is that right?
Absolutely.
Whereabouts in France was kind of home for you growing up?
Yeah, I've been brought up in the Alps by the Swiss border.
You chose the northwest because
it's a lovely place and a lot of challenges. But I guess home becomes where you live, where your friends are, where your businesses are, where your family is, and it's a great place to be.
Do you still go back a lot, or is?
Of course, I mean, EasyJet, low-cost airlines have really helped me. I remember spending a fortune at having to go back home in the late 90s, where now you can quickly jet off for a weekend and see mum and dad and perhaps put a bit of skiing whilst you're there.
So how was growing up in, I guess most people listening to this will have an idea of the UK kind of educational sector. Take us all the way back to how was kind of the schooling. Is it a similar setup, similar structure, or is there any differences in any way?
I think engineering is a very valued profession in France, probably more than it is in the UK. Hence, probably the shortage of people that we see now. I grew up in a place not dissimilar to the northwest in terms of the geography and in terms of the chemical industry that exists there. So where I'm from is where you have a number of chemical factories, and of course my dad worked there, and I got inspired from early age in terms of looking out to this sort of industry. Spent my summer holidays with small temporary work in those factories, and that gave me a taste about engineering and more specifically controls and control process.
Okay, because that's for me something we always touch on and start of these podcasts is that first memory. And most people, similar to what you've just said there, it's a parent or someone in their family, which again brings up that bigger question of if people don't have that, how we showcase an engineering term. But that was your kind of early engineering memories was from your dad, I guess.
That's right, yeah, and it was around process, and I guess another side interest for me was around software and computer building at that point, and the combination of both is the control engineering, is the automation industry, is the process side as well as the software side, and this is where we work, and this is where we deliver solutions that control processes.
So is that always an obvious career route for you? What sort of age were you where you thought, right, I'm going to go and be an engineer, whether that was an automation, a chemical engineer, etc.?
Yeah, it was quite early on, so well before A levels, I decided to go towards a more sort of technical education.
Yeah.
And when I completed the equivalent diplomas, this is where I realised that perhaps actually I need to go a bit further in higher education and join university at that point and did my degree and my master's.
So that was for you then, that kind of university route was the one, rather than going into work or going into an apprenticeship, it was the route you saw as best serving where you wanted to get?
I sort of done a U-turn because I was going for, I guess, early employment with technical education.
Yeah.
And as I was ready, I decided that perhaps I should go further afield.
Yeah.
Where European countries are very different to the UK is you still have a level of hierarchy and access to certain position will only be given to people who are qualified with that degree certificate.
Yeah. Do you think that's as important for young people now? I think the level of people going to university, the amount of people going is very different to probably 10, 20 years ago. Do you think it still holds as much weight having a degree or being degree qualified? Is that enough now to separate people?
Yeah, I think in the UK more specifically, which is the country I probably know the most, in that area, I would think twice about university. I would think twice whether this is the right thing for me. I think vocational education, especially around engineering, with the shortage of people we have at the moment, might be a route to consider, as opposed to perhaps going for a middle of the ground degree, where your employability post qualification may be difficult.
Yeah, I think from what I see, people probably need to consider the exit route of the degree they're choosing rather than necessarily the degree. It's that if you want to be a controls engineer, there are very relevant degrees. If you want to be a chemical engineer, but I think it's doing it with for a purpose.
That's right.
That I think comes a lot more important. So you did yours in automation and controls?
Yes, automation and control. But then I had to do a postgrad and a master's, and that's just to reach that engineering level in France to be employed as an engineer.
Yeah, and that was then that point. Right, you're going out into work. Talk us through, because you moved, didn't you, from education in France straight into working in the UK. Talk us through that, because that's a lot of change from living somewhere and different language.
It probably didn't feel that way at that age, 20, early 20s, fill your car with your belongings, drive up to the UK for a 6 months work placement. Yeah. At the time there was for Britvic soft drinks. Yeah. So canning and bottling and soft drinks and a lot of automation in there. Yeah. And I guess, fast forward 20 plus years down the line, the rest is history. I never went back home. So
talk from Britvic, then you obviously have a 6-month placement. Was there ever, did you stay on permanently there, or was it just a placement and then out into?
Yeah, it was a placement, but I think as for everybody in their career, I think you move your career where you want it to be. And through connection with the soft drinks industry, I met a lot of the automation suppliers to the industry and realised that this was the career for me. Perhaps the working for the end user didn't become so attractive. Working on the same site, what really was driving me at the time was project and product delivery and new things, and starting from inception of a project all the way to completion on site, and the variety of work. So I met up with different companies who then were quite keen to give me a job. And
from there, so we'll come into a second, the starting Peak. What was Peak 42 is now Peak Technology Solutions. But I guess there's that tipping point where you're employed, you're an engineer, you've moved from that end user. When did you start thinking, because there'll be people listening that, hey, you might be thinking, I want to start my own business, or that's a goal for them. When did you start thinking around, I want to do my own thing, or I want to work for myself or have my own business?
Sure. I worked for a number of years, and I think you have to earn your wings a little bit, and you have to to climb the ranks and be exposed to a number of disciplines. The technical side is important, but being exposed to the management side of a business is equally important. And then you have to understand the environment that you work in and realize that perhaps there is a ceiling there, or perhaps there isn't. For me, certainly, I could see a ceiling, and I wasn't prepared to have my ambition quashed at that point. I happened to work with three colleagues who I highly respect in terms of their technical depth, their approach to running business, and the friendship that we had at the time, and it just became an obvious thing for us to do.
I was going to say, because knowing Dave and Grant and Nigel, how did that come about? Who was the first kind of put their hand up and go, should we do something together? Yeah,
I think all of us were perhaps thinking that it was the time to do it, and I think we got together and got to talk and realised that was the case. We were all on our way out, one way or the other.
So you were at different companies at the time. You weren't all working in the same place, is that right?
Dave, Nigel, and myself were working in the same place,
okay.
and Grant was a very close connection.
Okay.
We were already, a very strong team without knowing how strong we would be.
So starting that business end, so you kind of agreed to do it. What was the process from almost being employed to that day one? There's obviously a lot to do in setting up a company, but how did you guys handle it, and what were the challenges, I guess, from transitioning from being employed to being the employer?
Yes, I think we didn't overplay the administration side of it. I think we were focused on fee earning. At the end of the day, we had to buy our own groceries, and there were challenges associated with that. So we started to consult for other companies, so delivering expertise to other automation vendors. I guess we came from a world where we had teams behind us, we had delivery capability, and we moved to a world where we had nothing except our own knowledge of the industry. So our route to market was to develop relationship with people who needed that expert knowledge. And then as you start working with those people, then you realize that there are low-hanging fruits there in terms of project delivery, perhaps a project that is not so attractive for them, but that they do need to deliver. And we started to secure those little bits of work and slowly start to employ people, move to proper location, move to SciTech, and grow the business from that inception.
Did you find, because I know from speaking to other people, the challenge of you come from established organisations, the big shock is not going into a new job, because that's what you know very well, it's I need to get an email signature, or someone wants a document about our capability, and it's we need to make that. Was that who took that kind of role within the business, or how did you find that?
Yes, I think initially we probably didn't do much of that because we were so focused about selling ourselves and generating revenues for our company. And to be honest, it took a number of years before you know what you're good at doing, before you actually get a vision of what you should be doing. And some of the strategic elements that we're talking through now perhaps were not that relevant in the early years, until you've done a few years, until you understand what it is that you're good at, where you should aim. We had some crazy ideas when we first started the business about
what didn't you do?
Opening a restaurant, or those things that we discussed over a couple of beers, which now would seem absolutely ridiculous. I think it's understanding what you're good at and focusing on those things.
And was it? We'll come on to in a bit around how you've scaled up and the different offices and the growth you've had. But was that always the plan? Did you have kind of early discussions? Was it we're going to grow this and have employees, etc., or was it just let's see where this goes and see if we can make some money?
I think we knew that come to a point where we would probably have to part company. Life is such that people of different age brackets, and And I think we always at the back of our mind that at some point in the life of the business, we would have to deal with succession strategy. We also realised that a business like ours, based on talent, it is actually quite difficult to market and sell unless you really establish and actually of a size that is relevant for a buyer. So we knew we would have to grow the business. There was no other way to make it a success.
Yeah, I guess, so a lot of businesses, you don't have a product. There's no physical product that you can sell. So it is the people, when it is your delivery, I guess, that is what sells you over others or ensures repeat business. How's that challenge of you four initially, you all know each other's strength, having to bring others in that then start representing the brand where it's not you, or it's not Nigel or Dave. Sure. How is that trust element of here's my baby, go and
of course,
go and run it?
I think a lot is around a small number of values, and working with new people and working closely with them, and them started to mimic some of your behaviors. I think you lead by example. And I see now in our business, for people who've been with us for a long time, and I can see some of their behaviors clearly been mimicked from that leadership that they've had the chance to experience, and I think that's how you grow the business, is the ability to pass on those values that made you successful.
So then now we're at 5 offices? Yeah. So obviously started here in SciTech. Talk us through, that's been really useful for you, hasn't it, of being somewhere where you've been helped to grow, but I guess you've got the facilities and the resource here to do that growth? Yeah,
I think when you decide where you're going to work, you can look at the real estate side of it, or you can look at perhaps a place that will add value to what you do, and that's clearly what we decided to do in terms of helping us to attract the right candidates, helping us to be at the heart of high-tech businesses and knowledge transfer, and SciTech clearly helped us through that growth.
Were you aware of SciTech before you chose to come here, or was it through research being recommended? What kind of led you here?
Networking, business connection, business school.
Did you know anyone here at the time?
I got introduced to somebody through others, and I think come to realise that networking and connection is what makes the world revolves. What makes you successful.
Okay, and then the first office from there was 6 years later, roughly?
Yes.
Up in Newcastle?
Yeah, so Newcastle is when we were successful on the long-term framework agreement with utilities company. So I guess we were working around the estate, but when we secured this long-term framework agreement, this is where you think, gosh, I've got some predictability here, what the business is going to look like. I should really start to look at recruiting locally and building a team locally. Our customers want access to us. They want to touch you, they want to reach you, they want to be able to get you on site pretty quickly. And that's what we did. Michael, who's from Newcastle, speaks the right accent, who knows the customer very, very well, is doing a fantastic job of running this operation, and with a few, building a great team in Newcastle.
Okay, and then the next natural move was the office down south, and then Chesterfield. Did they come at similar times, or was
our Reading office was next, and again, success story around utilities. Dave and Grant had been working around the Thames Water Estate for a long time, without actually being on any framework. And then finally we secured a framework agreement, similar story to Newcastle, bringing predictability in the level of business that we would deliver in the estate, and then giving you the confidence to invest in people, offices, and build a team locally.
And then Chesterfield, similar story. Was that driven by a customer, or what took you there?
Yeah, Chesterfield is interesting, really. I guess we picked up pretty quickly that talent is the answer to our growth.
Yeah.
We picked up quickly that talent were hard to come by. So where in the country would you have access to good engineers? And we realised through working with yourself and the CVs that were coming back, that Yorkshire was actually a hot pot of very good engineers. So at the time we had very little. I think we had no customers in Yorkshire, but still took the decision that this is a place where we should invest.
Yeah.
So I think we're employing 1 or 2 engineers with no home, people working from home, and we decided to grow that office because we're able to attract the right people.
And then now, most recently, Swaddling Co, you've got a presence there which gives you most of the country within reach from one of your offices now. Is that
yes
an advantage, I guess, that you've kind of got a local presence, whoever you're dealing with?
I think you're absolutely right. If we look at our success stories with new customers, well, every customer in the UK is already being serviced by a systems integrator.
Yeah.
There's nobody who's just coming and looking for one. So to be able to be successful on new business, you have to displace an existing incumbent. How you do that? Well, I guess we won't reveal our secret, but certainly being able to respond quickly to their demands, being able to be on site very quickly, same day, giving them access to your expertise is very key. And perhaps if that customer is not particularly well serviced by the existing incumbents, who are not as responsive as perhaps you can be, they will open up themselves to competition.
Any further, is that you settled now in terms of your office base, or do you see there's any other opportunities for you as a company in terms of where you, without giving away anything?
No, I think you've known us for long enough, and you probably know that we don't sit still.
No.
Always thinking about the next step, always putting plans together, always delivering with objectives in mind. I think the recent acquisition is certainly bringing a lot of new objectives and perhaps new UK locations for us to establish.
Perfect. So in terms of moving forward to now, success-wise, the success story you talked around, that succession plan, how is it bringing in that kind of, one of your successes has always been that flat structure, everyone involved, everyone engaged, but how's it been having to have a management structure brewing? Because a lot of companies go for that challenge of it grows and you hit the point where you need a next line of managers. Local offices, big projects. How did you go about overcoming that challenge of removing yourselves from maybe the day-to-day and entrusting that into other people?
Yeah, it's a hard challenge. it's a hard challenge because you probably wrongly think that you're doing things better than anybody else, and the reality is there are very good talent out there, and people are a lot better than yourself to do some of those things. So I think that the key is to make sure that you keep perhaps a strategic angle, but everything that somebody else is very capable in doing is making sure that you give those people the opportunity to grow and take on further responsibility through the business. It's
empowering them, I guess, to almost prove themselves and earn that trust and responsibility for everyone.
Absolutely, and as a business, we've always run quite busy. I think if somebody is showing ambitions, if somebody's willing to try to take somebody on, then the world is yours to really within our company. If you're showing any signs of ambition, we will help those people to move into those areas.
Okay. So obviously last year there was some exciting news. You joined the Edwin James Group, big UK presence that they have. How did that come about? What led to you becoming involved with them?
Sure. It was a story probably 3 years in the making at that point. So something we had been discussing and thinking about. The story is about sustainability of our business. I think we'd reach a certain size and numbers. We have very strong ambitions to carry on growing, to carry on to increase our service delivery in new sectors, and it became difficult to meet those ambitions because the numbers are bigger.
Yeah.
And we actually thought that joining a large national operator would probably solve a lot of those problems.
Okay.
Clearly bringing opportunities, bringing financial backing, bringing perhaps a larger corporate size of the business, which we ought to adopt. We've reached a size where actually you have to start to behave like a proper a proper business, and all those things are being provided to us by the group.
Okay. And how's the transition been? Is there what's changed, or has anything changed?
We've worked for 15 plus years as a solid team of 4 people. We were unbreakable. Mm-hmm. We've gone through challenges, and I can't remember a single moment of strong disagreement. Everybody, all my colleagues, we gel together. We go back to base principle, to common sense, and as I said, unbreakable, and I think successful as a result. I've seen so many businesses who failed because of disagreements at ownership level or founder level. Of course, moving to joining the group is introducing changes. But they were positive changing. It's allowing colleagues to go and do other things. They've worked hard. They deserve to be able to move on. So it's solving some of those difficult succession problem. It's allowing some of our senior people to be empowered further. It's lifted a ceiling that, unfortunately, the 4 of us were bringing.
That ceiling, yeah.
The ceiling is now opened, and the stories and the ambitions for some of the more senior people can be realised further.
Okay. And in terms of your plans now, then, as a business going forward, what's next for Peak? What do you see as your next stage of growth?
I'm massively excited to be able to look at further opportunities which were not available to us before. Joining the group has opened new stream of industries, has opened group-wide capability offering. So perhaps not just looking at the software and the automation, but perhaps introducing to perhaps the larger customers a turnkey offering which includes process, electrical, automation, and the technology side that we offer. It's the next chapter for us. I think it's putting us in the Premier League of the automation companies in the UK.
Okay. So away from, I always like to finish with getting kind of your views and talking about engineering and tech in general. So I guess first of all, what excites you in terms of be it companies or products out in the market? What for you is kind of the big thing at the moment, or what you're excited to see develop?
Yeah, I guess I'm the guy who's going to try things. I'm the guy who's going to explore new things at all time. I think new technologies, new customers is what keeps your business really alive. It's what brings variety.
Yeah.
Is what allows our engineers to apply their skills to different sectors. Is what keeps them happy and motivated. So I'm really excited to carry on exploring those new avenues. Some of them we've identified organically. We're doing some work in data centers, in infrastructure, and some of those other stream of business will come from the group, introducing us to new customers and this more holistic approach of selling the wider services.
Okay. And away from work, what in your bit spare time? I assume technology engineering is still a hobby as well as a day job. What's your kind of outside interest in terms of that?
Yeah, perhaps a little less so. I've got a busy family life with a 6 and an 8-year-old. I try to spend that quality time. You know, work is demanding. Work is now the pace I follow at work is matching my children's holidays.
Yeah.
So I'm being reminded every 7 weeks that perhaps it is time to take a little break and enjoy ourselves and spend quality time. But I guess there's nothing like having a busy family life after a hard day at work. It reminds you the values and what matters in life.
Yeah. How did you find that balance when you first started? Of, you know, even if you take it back 6-8 years, you have your first child and your second child. How was trying to balance growing a business, multiple sites with, I guess, a very young family at that stage?
Yeah, I think I was very fortunate again to work with such a strong team. The four of us were able to cover each other when we were able to still live a reasonably, you know, normal life, still take time off. That work-life balance that we've discussed before is very important to us and ingrained in some of our values. And perhaps you could argue that time that this would be, you know, detrimental to growth and profits and results. I think in the long term it's certainly not.
I was going to say, do you think that's helped? I think for a lot of companies, flexible working and as a general is a big conversation piece at the moment. And I think for a lot of start-up companies, which I know you were and you've gone through that journey, it's work, and it's your business and you're so invested that to then transition into a more flexible pattern of working or stepping away from the business, that's where I think people struggle. But I guess for you guys, did having that from the beginning where, or when you're off, the others pick up the slack and knowing that you could cover them when they needed some time, has that helped you as you've grown to be quite relaxed about flexible working and knowing that people have a life outside of work?
I think you're absolutely right. I think having done that between ourselves in the early stage of the company demonstrated that there's more to performing than the actual hours that you spend at work. And this is probably more relevant to even some of our senior roles where your contribution to the business is through your expertise, your track record, the value you add, more than actually doing 60-hour week.
Okay. So I'll mention the B word, Brexit. You have probably a good insight seeing both sides. How's it been from a business point of view, first of all? Has it impacted you? Do you see it as a challenge still or something that's going to have a negative effect still?
It's hard to tell. Everybody was predicting big chaos and drop in volume. We actually had a very, very good year in 2016 and 2017 and 2018. So we've certainly not seen the effect of Brexit. Now, is it because we've not seen it, or is it because we've actually been busy doing other work? We've been busy growing in other sectors that perhaps have not been affected. Certainly we've seen a lot less investments in real estate, in new manufacturing plants, but we've been clever enough to focus our business development efforts on other sectors that are utilizing our technology, such as infrastructure and data center.
Do you think that growth will come back? I think it's been noticeable for everyone that it's the new projects that have been quiet and that hesitation from people. Are you getting a sense from businesses that people are now starting to kick on, now there is at least some stability or certainly a decision's been made?
I think whatever your views are and your thing, I think the fact that a decision's been made has got to be a right thing for the business world. I think it's unlocking a lot of uncertainty. What I would say though is I think our industry is changing, is shifting. and I would be worried if we were just working in the same sectors. I think we've been replacing a lot of historical business with new business by actually applying our technologies in new sectors.
Is that being agile, and as one goes quiet, you move where it gets busier elsewhere?
Absolutely. It's exactly that ability to actually go where the work is.
Yeah.
And if you and it's hard because you may think you've got the answers, you've got the capability. Actually moving your technical knowledge and applying to a new domain is actually a challenge, and you have to be humble and go slowly.
Yeah.
But I think this is how you carry on growing. To me, it's why are you doing what you're doing over the product that you are selling.
Yeah.
If you keep in mind what is it you're doing and why you're doing it, then you can keep being agile and changing it with innovation and what's happening in the different market sectors.
I think you touched on it earlier, it's people as well. I think it's keeping that at the forefront, that people buy from people want to work with people, and I think that's often the differentiator, and the real important point is those relationships and that networking, that when the going does get tough or gets quieter, it's those relationships that you guys have gone through a recession, it's those that drag you through it and hopefully then see you the other side for the growth side of it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, and we've talked on this topic at length through our recruitment stories, but clearly professional behaviours, personalities, people that fit with your team is probably a lot more important than the number of skills or how proficient they are on such a platform. Skills can be learned, new products can be learned, personalities are perhaps more difficult to change.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think a big driver for this podcast is looking at encouraging young people into industry. There's still a skill challenge, there's still a lack of talent across the whole of engineering as a whole. If you're a young person now, 17, 18, maybe 19, 20 at university, what would your advice be to them in terms of progressing a career, and looking back, what advice would you have given yourself?
Yeah, I mean, number one is go into engineering. Go into engineering, you will get a job when you come out. You will get a well-paid job. You will get career opportunities. Make engineering trendy again is what we need to do. There's clearly a lack of candidates.
I think I've spoken later to people about it, but it's people understanding, and part of this is to showcase that engineering isn't just this dirty kind of there's technology to it, there's software, there's a lot of what we interact with in a day-to-day has come from some initial engineering grounding, and I think being able to showcase that is something that needs to be done more. What else would you change from an education point of view? Is there anything you feel there that as a country we could be doing better in terms of getting people into engineering?
I think you're absolutely right. It's about awareness of what that discipline is. I mean, if we're focusing on the controls industry, the automation industry, the vertical are huge. This covers electrical design, process understanding, control technology. But then the last few years, it's actually moving towards IT, OT, Industry 4, and all the way to some of the complex IT business systems. So what we employ control engineers, really, we're employing people who are proficient all the way through to IT and all the way down to the electrical side. So it's not just a spanner and a screwdriver, that's all.
I think that's people's impression still. I think that's the biggest education piece, is learning that there is more to it. And I think, as we said right at the start, if you don't have a family member or a role model that you see that career from, where's the exposure to it? I think this here, where we are today, SciTech Print, there's some amazing companies. If you drove past, you probably wouldn't know what was here. And I think it's something that young people would see and think, wow. So I think that awareness is a big piece. Well, I mean, it's been very enjoyable going through that journey. I've known some of it, but to hear your journey, and I think for a lot of people they'll take away some of the challenges you've had, and I think some really useful bits you've said around the personality factor being a big piece and how you grow and scale that company. I think being from day one what you want to be at day however many. So appreciate your time, and thanks for joining us.
Thank you very much, Tom.